have seen the Garden of Blight.
In this episode, we journey far beyond the mortal world and into the shifting, nightmarish heart of the Immaterium itself. These are the realms of chaos, where the impossible becomes reality, and each landscape is the manifestation of a god's eternal madness. From the rotting fecundity of NURGLE'S garden to the blood-soaked fury of KHORNE'S brass citadel, the seductive despair of SLANEESH'S palace, and the mind-warping illusions of TZEENTC'S impossible fortress. This is a descent into the very heart of chaos. Steel your mind and fortify your soul, for what lies beyond is corruption made manifest. NURGLE, known as the Plague Lord, the Great Corrupter, and affectionately by his followers as Grandfather, is one of the Chaos Gods. He embodies decay, disease, and entropy. But paradoxically, he is also the god of rebirth and regeneration. For from decay springs new life, albeit in a form that most would find grotesque. From his pestilent garden within the Chaos realm, where carrion flowers sway in the polluted breeze, and horrid fungi sprout from rotting corpses, NURGLE lovingly concocts new afflictions. His demons emerge forth to bring his gifts to mortals across the lands. For NURGLE is a generous god who rejoices with each successful play. Uncountable living beings fall to his carefully wrought endeavors. Yet there are those who seek power through acquiring his gifts. His apostles are often shambles of putrefying flesh and dripping sores, but with unnaturally resilient bodies that vigorously resists death, while they deal death to those who reject NURGLE'S offerings. Just as all life falls to decay, so too does every mortal. And each that falls begets new life and new hope. This is the trade in which NURGLE traffics. Flesh is the coin of his realm, and hopes are the interests he pays on the investments made. In every corner of this harsh and indifferent world, countless lives are extinguished each day. Wars ravage the lands, drowning kingdoms in the blood of their citizens. Greed and ambition strip nations of their wealth and prospects for the benefit of the few. Broken oaths, deception, and treachery bring down empires, sacrificing the lives of those loyal to them so that the sinister schemes of new tyrants may emerge. Amid such catastrophes, anguish, despair, pain, and pestilence afflict the minds and flesh of the survivors, driving them to hopelessness. But despite all this hopelessness and despair, it is said that through NURGLE and his noxious blessing, a soul may discover renewed meaning and the determination to lift its gaze to the skies, confront the abyss of decay, and reclaim their life again.
Rejoice. Your father brings you hope in your darkest hour. Let those who would accept his gifts come forth and receive the blessings of the Lord of Decay. Cast away your crutches and doubts. Put aside beliefs in a false master who fills your hearts with lies, sorrow, and regrets. Embrace instead the glorious gifts of rot and decay. Revel in the beauty of putrefaction and be reborn a living symbol of perseverance.
These are the stark realities of life in the mortal realm, and the whispers that articulate these realities are the same whispers that animate the malevolent denizens of another domain, the realm of chaos. As the mightiest forces within the warp, the Chaos Gods hold supreme sway over the shadowy realm's form. Their dominions are not territories with defined limits. More so, they are tangible expressions of existence, prone to grow or shrink with the fluctuating might of their master. The notion of boundaries only gains some form of recognition where these realms converge, in areas a human mind might vaguely interpret as borders. KHORNE, Slaanesh, TZEENTC'S, and NURGLE each wield their distinct influence over their surroundings through their desires, their actions, and the accomplishments of their followers, crafting unique landscapes for themselves. The domain of the Blood God thrives on warfare and strife, hosting endless battlefields where his followers engage in eternal conflict.
For the Blood God! Skulls for the Skull Throne!
The realm of Slaanesh is a labyrinth of enticing marvels and perplexing beauty, laying traps and circles of temptation at every turn. TZEENTC'S territory is an ever-changing maze of bizarre edifices, puzzles, and landscapes in constant flux. NURGLE'S territory, by contrast, is a garden.
The Flesh Legion marches.
The Garden of NURGLE holds a peculiar and macabre charm, distinctively reflecting its master's nature. It is not a place of beauty, not in the conventional sense. It exists within the realm of chaos, and so this garden is an extension of NURGLE himself, a domain where the concepts of life and death, growth and decay, are all inextricably intertwined. It is an endless expanse of rotting vegetation, where every conceivable form of blight and pestilence thrives. The air is thick with the buzz of flies and the stench of decay. Pustulent plants and fungi of all shapes and sizes grow in profusion, releasing spores that spread corruption. Streams and pools teem with virulent life, where the very water seems to pulsate with malignancy. The Garden of NURGLE defies mortal comprehension, an immeasurable expanse that transcends the very concept of space and time. To attempt to grasp its vastness is to invite madness, for it is not merely a place, but a manifestation of NURGLE's infinite capacity to nurture and corrupt. The garden sprawls beyond horizons that recede endlessly, filled with a diversity of rotten ruin that cannot be catalogued by any mortal means. Its pathways twist upon themselves in impossible geometries, leading travelers in circles or into realms of deeper corruption. Every step taken within this garden reveals yet more layers of its infinite decay, a labyrinth of life in its most virulent form, sprawling out in all directions, boundless, a domain where scale and distance lose all meaning, and the very concept of understanding becomes as ephemeral as the lives swallowed by NURGLE'S boundless garden. It is no ordinary garden. Perhaps it is not a garden at all, but mortal minds that contemplate the manifested will of the Lord of Decay must attempt to make some sort of sense out of what they have seen or heard in whispered tales. They must place it in some sort of relatable context that they can consider without going insane. Tomes and other forbidden texts that have attempted to describe this place agree that the idea of NURGLE'S realm being a perverse, deadly, and yet strangely beautiful garden best puts chaos into terms they can fathom. In this garden, NURGLE toils with the affection of a devoted gardener, cultivating new diseases and spreading plagues across the mortal and immortal realms.
Each new disease, each new mortal brought low, is carefully recorded in a never-ending tally of his loving beneficence. NURGLE exists everywhere, for all living things erode and fail, and with each fall his power grows.
His followers, a grotesque assembly of demons and mortal champions, find in this garden a paradise. To them, the diseases and poxes created by NURGLE are blessing, symbols of their god's favor. Plague-bearers, NURGLE'S demonic foot soldiers. They tend to the garden, counting and cataloging every infection, while NURGLE'S, diminutive imps that embody the essence of NURGLE'S joviality and macabre sense of humor, play amongst the filth and decay. Great unclean ones, the most powerful of NURGLE'S servants, oversee the garden's maintenance, spreading their master's gifts far and wide, delighting in the proliferation of sickness and disease. The Garden of NURGLE is not a worldly garden in the slightest, even though it does have some similarities to the real-world gardens and jungles known to man. In this strange and dangerous realm, a visitor may not travel from one spot to another. Not even the demons who look after the garden may come and go as they please. Instead, they are all incorporated into the garden's overall experience. To an outsider, the Garden of NURGLE might seem like a nightmarish hellscape, but for those who embrace the decay, it is a place of endless fascination, where the cycle of life and death plays out in its most primal form. It is a realm where the most horrific diseases are crafted, only to be unleashed upon the world, bringing despair and devastation, but also renewal in a twisted form. In this way, the Garden of NURGLE is the perfect playground to the perverse creativity of the Plague God. At the heart of NURGLE'S garden lies a decrepit mansion, a bastion of decay, where the air is thick with the buzz of flies, and the ground teems with grotesque vermin. The shutters just barely cling to the window frames, only half filled with broken panes of filth-covered glass. Sewer drains spill forth beetles, maggots, and twisted centipedes, with tongues for bodies and human fingers for legs. This house, perpetually on the brink of collapse, yet eternally preserved in its state of rot, serves as a symbol of pestilence and death, as well as the paradoxical source of hope and renewal, under the watchful eye of Nurgle, the Lord of all. Nurgle himself often sits in a massive chair, just to the side of the mansion's front door. He greets visitors with tales and trials, amidst the natural place full of dangers and dark wonders. From the attic, filled with meticulously catalogued diseases, to the perilous kitchens brewing endless plagues, every corner of this mansion reflects Nurgle's macabre creativity and his twisted affection for the cycle of life and death. During his excursions beyond the mansion, he wanders past some of his most cherished spots, many of which have been around since Nurgle first thought of them, and are likely blueprints for the new universe that will emerge. A short distance from the mansion lies the Deathbeds, a place he frequents more than any other. This area fulfills dual purposes. Not only does it trap errant travelers and vanquish foes in its deep pits and treacherous bogs, holding them for some vile future purpose or for their eventual end, but it also serves as Nurgle's preferred source of amusement. The Plague Father delights in tales from beyond his realm, drawing inspiration for new diseases suited to foreign lands. In the Deathbeds, he finds an endless supply of potential storytellers. Occasionally, he offers these hapless souls a chance to better their lot by expelling the worms from their mouths and recounting stories of their homelands. Those who entertain him are taken from the bog and carried to the mansion, where they are granted the dubious honor of serving as carriers for Nurgle's latest contagions. Once fully infected, Nurgle offers them a final, nauseating embrace before dispatching them back to the realms of which they originate. Following his visits to the Deathbeds, Nurgle often proceeds to the Poxyards, his laboratory for testing the effectiveness of his plagues on both body and soul. Each disease undergoes a unique trial to assess its potential to fulfill the Plague Father's twisted ambitions, transforming the Poxyard's landscape to meet the needs of each test. For trials of the spirit, the area of testing might mimic a serene landscape with crystal-clear lakes, tempting the dehydrated and tainted to drink, only for the water to morph into pus, torturing the frail spirits. For a test of a skin-eating disease, the Poxyards may be filled with claw-thrust brambles. Infected captives can be sent running into the demon plants, chased by beasts. If the captives scream as they pass through the razor-edged branches of the plants, then Nurgle knows that the poor wretches can still feel pain, and his affliction needs refinement. The Poxyards, ever-changing, serve as a crucible for Nurgle's experiments, providing him with endless revelations, and thus occupying much of his attention. Numerous other locales share this vibrancy and mirth, areas perpetually alive with hustle and delight. The Morabusium, a nursery for the most valuable and venomous flora, and the Dunglash Arboretum, where purified waste dangles from branches as foul-smelling, rotten tendrils. Each of these zones supply Nurgle with the essential components and revelations required to advance his endeavors at the Cauldron, rejuvenating him upon his return to the mansion after his macabre excursions. Nurgle's garden exists in a perpetual cycle of decay and rejuvenation, a domain where despair coexists with the perverse form of hope. Within its ever-expanding borders, the Plague Father cultivates diseases with the care of a devoted gardener. Each seed is nurtured to be future pestilences, catastrophes, and transformations across the realms.
The mark, 3 endless circles of the acolytes who saw it. Only I persist still. The others struggled against the spreading rot, and they succumbed. Our master ordered the church burned, the town cleansed, but it was far too late. The rot had taken hold, and now all that remained was to accept it. Only I saw that reality, that inevitability. The others died, choked by flies, their flesh sloughing from their bodies, their bones made the meal of worms. But I persisted, and then I saw the path.
The Citadel of KHORNE looms as a towering fortress inside the realms of chaos. Its walls are forged from brass that gleams with the glow of unending conflict. Every inch of this stronghold exudes a primal hostility. From its jagged battlements to the rivers of searing liquid that flow around its base. Within its walls, no peace can ever be found. Only the ceaseless roar of warfare and the insatiable hunger of those who dwell there. The outer realm of KHORNE is encircled by an immense barrier. It is a sheer cliff, forged from the darkest crimson and blackened iron. Its surface etched with the scars of countless battles and the remnants of desperate attempts to breach it. This monolithic structure, named the Bastion Stair, stretches endlessly across the horizon, a boundary that dares all who gaze upon it to challenge entering the realm of the Blood God. Between the outer walls and the brass citadel itself, the ground is a wasteland of rocks, shattered bones, and congealed gore, patrolled by the relentless flesh hounds of KHORNE who were ever hungry and ever ready to leap onto any promise of fresh meat. These fearsome beasts, their maws filled with jagged teeth, pace hungrily, snapping at ancient bones as they await fresh prey to tear apart. Could anyone cross this gruesome threshold and survive the fast and relentless creatures that guard it? Or would they become yet another trophy for the Lord of Skulls? The brass citadel's moat is a seething river of boiling blood that comes from the countless victims claimed in KHORNE's endless wars. The rivers are endless. Iron gargoyles leer from every parapet, their snarling visages alive with hatred. Their eyes glint like embers, and their hollow bellies churn with molten metal. ready to spew their fury upon any foolish enough to approach. These are only the initial dangers that one must face when entering the feared Citadel of KHORNE. Surrounding the brass citadel, one can also find bloodletters. These creatures are the demonic foot soldiers of the chaos god of war and blood, and they are the physical manifestation of his relentless fury. These fierce creatures are summoned to battle as KHORNE'S enforcers, spreading carnage wherever they go. However, they also roam the realms of chaos, ever thirsty to go to war for the sake of spilling blood and gaining the attention of their master. These are completely rage-consumed souls with no chance at redemption, and they are blinded by an uncontrollable fury to fight. Bloodletters are sinewy, red-skinned beings with razor-sharp horns and fangs, wielding massive hell blades that sear through armor and flesh with supernatural ease. They are disciplined warriors compared to the demon minions of other gods, fighting in tightly organized ranks as they chant blood-soaked battle cries and otherworldly dialects. They chant as they fight and tear their enemies apart. Their sole purpose is to claim skulls for KHORNE'S throne and draw blood for the blood god. For a mortal to make it far to the brass citadel is an almost impossible feat, as the fortress is a crucible of unending violence and relentless trials. The very air is oppressive, thick with the scent of iron and the heat of molten brass, sapping strength with every breath. Beyond the boiling moat lies a battlefield where warriors, both mortal and immortal, clash endlessly in a brutal quest for supremacy, their skill and savagery growing with each encounter.
I am violence. I am war.
Once a mortal ventures deeper into the realm of KHORNE, or sets foot within the brass citadel, they are faced with a brutal series of trials designed to test their endurance, strength, and worthiness in the eyes of the chaos god of war. Each step forward demands the mortal to confront endless waves of enemies, bloodletters, flesh hounds, and even other warriors driven mad by bloodlust, all fighting to claim their place in KHORNE'S favor, to try and advance further, or simply to survive. Legends say that there are warriors in that realm that are said to have been fighting since the dawn of time, condemned souls that are bound to fight for eternity. That is their torment, and that is the sole purpose of their damned existence. The trials are ceaseless, offering no rest or reprieve, for there is no mercy in KHORNE'S domain. The gods' disdain for weakness ensures that only the most ferocious and unyielding individuals can hope to survive. Innumerable beings have perished under the weight of these tests. Their broken bodies and scattered bones litter the halls and battlegrounds of the Citadel. Over countless millennia, the cries of those who fell echo through the fortress. Even those who endure the physical trials are tested further as their minds are pushed to the brink by the relentless carnage they see and the deafening roar of eternal war. The constant, desperate cries, pain-filled screams, insults and taunts from reckless challengers, and the incessant clash of steel on the battlefield can drive any sane man into full desperation. The ones who break under this pressure are quick to ask for respite, if for only a single second of peace. Yet there is no peace in Khorne's realm. There is only conflict. Many warriors, often known for their resolve and stubbornness, break down into tears and become truly deranged. And then, there are those who throw themselves into the rivers of hot flowing lava for the torment to end quickly. The cowards are quick to be put down by the edge of the sword or the crushing weight of a hammer, often wielded by another warrior or a servant of Khorne. These trials strip away all humanity, reducing the unworthy to lifeless remains, while propelling the few who survive further into a spiral of rage. Across the expanse of this chaotic battlefield, the jagged landscape tells the story of countless violent encounters. Deep canyons and craters scar the terrain, the remnants of brutal clashes, where some of Khorne's colossal demonic warriors fought one another, or the followers of rival powers. Occasionally, Khorne himself deigns to summon mortal champions to this realm, testing their martial skill in a gauntlet of unrelenting combat. Such trials rarely see the mortal emerge victorious, but for the few who endure, their survival marks the beginning of an irreversible transformation, a journey toward becoming something more, or maybe less, than human. As they fight, they crave more power, to be able to go further into the trials, or into the Citadel itself. But these powers come at a heavy price, and once a warrior asks for them, they are on a spiraling road to eternal damnation.
I am wrath. I am rage incarnate.
Within the Citadel dwell the Bloodthirsters, the towering greater demons of Khorne, each one an incarnation of unrestrained fury and devastating violence. These monstrous beings are relentless warriors, their only purpose to annihilate any who stand before them and add to the growing mountain of skulls offered to their lord. On the battlefield, they are unstoppable, wielding weapons that seem to echo with the cries of countless victims and are as huge as a full man's height. Some of these demonic weapons even bigger than that. Yet, contrary as to many would think, the Bloodthirsters are not reckless berserkers who just jump into combat instinctively. They blend overwhelming physical power with a calculating and malevolent intelligence. They are tacticians of great skill, capable of reading the flow of battle with precision, the result of being part of countless battles across time and space. In the midst of chaos, they can identify weaknesses in their enemies' lines and exploit them with efficiency, showcasing why they are truly masters of war. The Bloodthirsters are meticulously organized into a brutal hierarchy, each rank bearing distinct titles and responsibilities. At the pinnacle of this fearsome order stands the first host, composed of 8 Bloodthirsters, Khorne's most trusted and powerful generals, whose mere presence induces all warriors within a wide radius into a berserking, uncontrollable fury, and can turn the tide of any conflict. What mortal could possibly withstand the gaze of such a creature, let alone its wrath in combat?
I beheld a raging beast, chained to that wall of bone by a brazen and bloody chain. Its every bellow shook the ground upon which I stood, its every utterance fulsome with the fury of war. As the demon's gaze fell upon me, it demanded with a booming voice that I set it free, that it might bring the glory of bloodletting to this realm once more. Momentarily, I considered the beast's demands, for an ally in that dark realm would have been a welcome thing. But then, I realized the folly of such a course. The demon had no place in its black heart for loyalty to one such as I. Rage was its only master, and slaughter the only companion it would ever acknowledge. I left that place with speed, and prayed that the chains would hold till I was gone.
It is said that one could speak with a bloodthirster, for these towering lords of carnage are fluent in every tongue spoken by mortals, knowing every dialect and inflection with unnerving precision. Yet this offers no salvation to those who encounter them. Their words are as sharp and cruel as the weapons they wield, for their purpose is singular: to destroy the world in a tide of fire, leaving its lifeless husk as an offering to Khorne. Bloodthirsters are most often bound within the turbulent confines of the realms of chaos, their immense power chained by the boundaries of their cursed dominion. However, these monstrous beings can only cross into the material world through massive rifts, breaches in reality that are rarely subtle or inconsequential. Such transitions are typically tied to catastrophic events, wars of apocalyptic scale, or the desperate invocations of mortals seeking power beyond comprehension. When these rifts tear open, they unleash not just a creature of destruction, but the fury of Khorne himself, made into flesh and into a creature that exists solely to spread ruin. Among the ranks of Khorne's most fearsome servants, few are as notorious as Angarath, the Unbound. Towering above even his fellow bloodthirsters, Angarath is a living embodiment of Khorne's relentless wrath. Summoned only in the direst and rarest of moments, his arrival heralds unparalleled destruction, as few realms can endure his presence without succumbing to utter ruin. In the hierarchy of Khorne's demonic legions, Angarath stands at the blood god's right hand, closest to the fabled skull throne. Angarath's rise to this exalted position came after TZEENTCH'S cunning intervention led to the downfall of Khorne's former champion, Skarbrand. Once Khorne's favored slaughterer, Skarbrand was deceived by TZEENTCH into betraying his master, an act that saw him cast out of Khorne's realm and condemned to eternal exile.
I am Skarbrand, the Unforgiven.
With Skarbrand's disgrace, Angarath ascended as Khorne's most trusted and ferocious servant, securing his place as the blood god's mightiest general. Another bloodthirster, not as well known, but still a ferocious and powerful being. During the climactic defense of the Great Vortex ritual, During the first incursion of chaos into the mortal world, when the mighty Immaterium had faced and defeated 3 of the mightiest greater demons sent by the Chaos Gods, a 4th champion emerged to challenge him, Hargrim. This monstrous demon was dispatched as the ultimate weapon of chaos, a being of unrivaled ferocity. Upon his arrival, Hargrim wasted no time in demonstrating his power. With his searing axe, he inflicted a grievous wound upon Indraugnir, the noble dragon who had faithfully carried Immaterium through countless battles, striking the great beast a second time before turning his wrath upon the Phoenix King himself. Hargrim's strength was immense, his blows so devastating that they began to pierce even Immaterium's enchanted armor. It seemed as though chaos would claim victory on that legendary day, as the demon raised his weapon to deliver the final strike. But in a desperate, last act of defiance, Immaterium summoned the last reserves of his strength and wielded the dreaded Sword of Cain with deadly precision, cutting Hargrim in 2 and ending the demon's rampage. With Immaterium's sacrifice, the ritual was successfully completed, creating what would become the Great Vortex, and thus saving the mortal world from being overrun by the raw powers of chaos and the demonic manifestations that it created. As we have established, within the ranks of Khorne's demonic legions, bloodthirsters are divided into 8 distinct tiers, each with its own duties, titles, and hierarchy. As the tiers descend, their numbers increase, creating a brutal hierarchy where every bloodthirster fights for dominance. Ambition is encouraged, for any bloodthirster can challenge a higher-ranked demon to combat in the Bloody Pit, a colossal arena forged from brass and obsidian, where only the strongest can emerge victorious and claim their new rank. The third host, for example, known as the Wrath of Khorne, is renowned for its warriors who wield devastating chain flails and axes. Adorned with jagged crowns inscribed with dark runes that speak of terrible feats and heretical legends, these bloodthirsters embody the relentless fury of their master. By contrast, the 8th host, called the Unfettered Fury, is composed of bloodthirsters who carry ancient axes, their blades stained with the dried blood of countless victims from millennia of ceaseless combat. Each tier of this fearsome hierarchy reflects a different aspect of Khorne's endless hunger for blood and skulls, ensuring that every warrior is bound by their thirst for power. The warriors who actually manage to somehow pass these trials are granted the opportunity to descend deeper and deeper into the Brass Citadel. However, by this point, their minds are usually consumed by unrelenting rage and the absolute desire to slay more and more adversaries. But what lies in the deepest parts of the Citadel? Deep within the Citadel lies the Bloody Pit, a colossal arena where the fiercest bloodthirsters clash in brutal combat to prove their strength and rise through Khorne's unforgiving hierarchy. This pit, carved from jagged brass and blackened stone, serves as the ultimate proving ground, embodying Khorne's creed: honor and power are earned only through raw might and relentless combat. Here, demons of unimaginable ferocity test their skills and endurance, their every strike and roar echoing with the promise of dominance or the despair of defeat. Armed with a wide variety of weapons and exotic armor, coming from all corners of the world and places beyond imagination, thousands of warriors from all paths meet in the bloody pit to settle who truly is the mightiest of them all. Each battle fought in the pit is a savage display where only the strongest are deemed worthy, and the weak are cast aside to fuel the unending cycle of bloodshed. According to scholars, theogonists, and the blood-soaked tales of battle-worn survivors who claim to have glimpsed the Citadel, it is said that Khorne himself resides within a colossal vault at the black heart of the central keep. Here, 8 towering iron pillars stretch into the shadowy abyss above, their immense forms supporting the unimaginable weight of the throne room's ceiling. Each pillar is engraved with one of Khorne's sacred commandments, edicts that glorify the unholy virtues of rage, mastery of combat, and unyielding defiance. At the center of this vast and oppressive chamber sits the Blood God upon his skull throne, a massive brass seat embedded atop a gigantic mountain of countless skulls, each a trophy claimed from the fields of battle. Below the throne stretches a grim and jagged carpet of splintered bones. These shattered remains are the offerings of countless champions, each shard of bone a fragment of those who fell beneath their blades in Khorne's name. The throne itself is often depicted as a grandiose structure that radiates power and menace. It serves as a literal and figurative seat of authority for Khorne, who is often portrayed as a colossal figure seated upon it. The phrase that is often said by Khorne's followers, "Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne," is a battle cry encapsulating their devotion. Worship is conducted on the battlefield rather than in temples, as Khorne demands bloodshed as a form of reverence. As we go deeper and deeper within the blood-soaked halls of Khorne's brass citadel, it becomes clear why no mortal could hope to survive within this merciless realm. Every step is fraught with danger. From the searing rivers of boiling blood to the endless trials of combat against demonic foes and other warriors seeking to prove their dominance. In Khorne's domain, there is no rest, no reprieve, only the expectation of battle and the constant threat of annihilation. This is a place where strength rules supreme, and the weak are destined to perish. Their remains are added to the ever-growing monument of Khorne's conquests. What appears as the ultimate paradise is, in truth, a domain where surrender leads to eternal enslavement, and resistance demands an unyielding fortitude that few can muster. This is the realm of Slaanesh, the Dark Prince of Chaos. The ones who enter too deep find themselves hopelessly lost, their resolve crumbling as their most primal desires are laid bare and turned against them. Mighty demons of Khorne who have sought to breach Slaanesh's palace have been turned to white sand, put to rest in a place where they will no longer gather skulls for their master. Sorcerous heralds of TZEENTC'S, their minds filled with endless schemes and ambitions, have found themselves paralyzed by visions of ultimate knowledge, truths so overwhelming that their forms unraveled into shimmering motes of despair. Even the most resilient demons of NURGLE, who revel in decay and defy entropy itself, have been lured into gardens of perfect stillness, their vitality drained as they wither into nothing, unable to spread their master's foul gifts. Endless souls linger in eternal torment within the palace of Slaanesh, victims of their inability to resist the temptations that ensnare them. From kings to peasants, from once mighty champions of mortal empires to the ageless minions of the Chaos Gods, all are bound in a cycle of suffering and longing. They are trapped in forms that reflect their unfulfilled desires, some frozen in moments of hollow ecstasy, others locked in endless pursuit of what they can never attain. To even approach Slaanesh's palace, one must brave the 6 circles of seduction, a gauntlet of trials designed to ensnare the soul. Each circle tests a different facet of your being, drawing you deeper into Slaanesh's grasp. Each of the 6 circles of seduction represents a distinct and deadly temptation. Avidity, gluttony, carnality, paramountcy, vainglory, and indolency. These circles are not merely trials. They are manifestations of Slaanesh's boundless desires, each one carefully designed to ensnare and corrupt any being that steps into the Dark Prince's realm, be it mortal or immortal. Beyond serving as a celebration of the Dark Prince's essence, these circles form an almost impenetrable barrier, protecting the palace of pleasure at the center of Slaanesh's domain. To even approach it, an intruder must traverse these treacherous rings in order, each one presenting a more overwhelming temptation than the last. The journey requires not just strength, but an almost inhuman level of willpower, for the circles strip away resistance with each and every step. Would you survive a day in this place? In this episode, we'll explore the horrors of the 6 circles and uncover the mysteries of Slaanesh's own palace, a location of unimaginable beauty and danger, where the Dark Prince resides. To step into this domain is to risk everything, for even a single glance at Slaanesh can unravel the very essence of who you are. The first trial on the path to Slaanesh's palace is the Circle of Avidity, a realm where desires are no longer abstract cravings, but tangible temptations. Here, the promise of wealth, power, or influence is tailored perfectly to the ambitions of each soul who dares to enter. Mountains of glittering treasures rise into the skies, their surfaces adorned with jewels of unimaginable brilliance. while phantom figures whispered promises of success and supremacy to those willing to reach out and claim it. Yet the place is not what it seems. The treasures shimmer with a deceptive allure, but each step closer brings an overwhelming sense of need that begins to consume the mind. The allure is not of riches, but of fulfillment. The whispering voice of one's deepest ambitions, offering everything if only the intruder succumbs. As hands grasp at these illusory prizes, they find the ground itself shifting beneath their feet, dragging them closer to the clutches of Slaanesh's influence. Those who fall to the temptations here are lost. Their souls trapped within this glimmering realm of promises unfulfilled, as they become golden statues, trapped forever in Slaanesh's realm for their unchecked ambition.
I saw the unending suffering of the poor souls damned to that cruel place. Uncountable souls trapped within twisted statues of gold and gems, their faces frozen in expressions of both ecstasy and agony. Their mouths were open as if to scream, but no sound came forth. No, only the glint of jewels that adorned their tortured forms. Each one had reached for their heart's desire, only to become part of the glittering nightmare that now surrounded them. I could feel their despair, their regret, echoing in the air like a silent plea for freedom that would never come. It was as though the treasures themselves had a life of their own, feeding on the souls of the damned to maintain their terrible beauty. And yet, for all the horror, I felt the pull, the temptation to join them, to reach out and claim what my heart whispered that I deserved.
Then there is the circle of gluttony, where abundance becomes a curse and indulgence the ultimate trap. Endless feasts stretch as far as the eye can see, tables laden with delicacies so exquisite that their mere scent could make the strongest will falter. The air is filled with the aromas of roasted meats, spiced wines, and decadent sweets, all crafted to cater to the most primal and refined of appetites. Servants, their forms unnervingly perfect, glide between the tables, offering morsels and goblets that seem impossible to refuse. Yet the more one partakes, the hungrier they become. As the food and drink twist their senses, leaving an unquenchable craving for more. Those who succumb find themselves trapped in an endless cycle of consumption, their bodies swelling grotesquely, their minds dulled by overindulgence, until they become part of the feast itself.
And then I saw them, the damned who had given in, their hands trembling as they reached for more, always more. Their eyes were wide with hunger, but their faces twisted in anguish, as if they knew they were consuming their own freedom with every bite. Around them, the servants moved like shadows, their smiles sharp and knowing, refilling goblets and plates without end. And then I noticed the ones who could no longer eat, slumped in their chairs, their bloated forms still, yet their eyes followed me, pleading silently for release. But there was no release. Not here.
The circle of carnality is a place where desire becomes both a weapon and snare. The air is heavy with intoxicating scents and melodies that stir the deepest cravings of the heart and body. Here, ethereal figures move with a grace that seems otherworldly, their forms shifting to match the most secret fantasies of those who enter. It is as if they know what the visitor truly desires, and they take that form perfectly. They are imposingly beautiful and tempting on the outside, yet they are twisted demons on the inside, hungry, ready to rip apart their souls the second they completely give in. They beckon with knowing smiles, offering pleasures and connection beyond mortal comprehension. And yet, this realm is not one of love, but of obsession, where every touch draws the entrant deeper into a web of longing and dependency.
Such exquisite symphonies. Bliss indeed, and we have barely begun.
The longer one remains, the more blurred the line between fulfillment and enslavement becomes. Many who succumb are reduced to hollow shells, their identities consumed in the pursuit of carnal pleasure. Their souls left to wander the circle as shadows of what they once were, ever looking for more and more, until what they crave is no longer what they thought, but a much darker, more sinister and twisted version of their own desires. To pass through this trial is to resist the pull of one's own desires and confront the truth of what lies behind the allure.
They danced around me, their movements impossibly fluid, their faces shifting perfectly into reflections of my own desires. I could feel their touch without them even reaching for me, a warmth that promised everything I thought I wanted. But as I stared into their eyes, I saw it. Emptiness. A void so vast it threatened to swallow me whole. They weren't offering joy or love. They were offering me oblivion. And in that moment I knew if I gave in, I would lose myself entirely.
The circle of paramountcy is a realm where power and dominance reign supreme. Its landscape is an ever-shifting array of thrones, rings, jewels, crowns, and scepters, each one gleaming with the promise of authority and command. Those who enter find themselves surrounded by visions of conquest and victory, illusions of themselves exalted above all others. The air hums with the voices of supplicants and the cheers of adoration, as if the world itself has bent to their will. Yet the power offered here is a lie, a fragile illusion that demands complete submission to maintain. Those who seize it become consumed by their own ambitions, their minds and souls twisted until they are nothing more than puppets, enslaved by the very power they sought to wield. To pass through this circle requires the strength to deny the allure of supremacy, and the wisdom to see that true power lies not in control, but in the ability to let go.
Suddenly I sat upon a golden throne, armies kneeling at my feet, their voices in the millions chanting my name. It felt intoxicating, as if the universe itself bowed to my will. In that moment, I was everything. Everything I had ever wanted to be. Unstoppable, untouchable, supreme. All the things I had worked so hard for, and even more. Before me stretched a sea of kneeling figures, warriors, kings, even gods, all bowing to me in absolute submission. All the things I deserved. But then I saw the cracks. It was faint at first, running through the throne, the crowns, the scepters. And then I felt it. Chains, not on them, not on my subjects, where those chains belonged, but on me. Every ounce of power I thought I held was an anchor dragging me down, deeper into something I couldn't escape. That's when I realised this wasn't a victory. This was a prison, gilded and hollow. Gathering all the willpower I had, I reached for the crown on my head, with every intention to remove it.
And then, as we progress further into the inner circles, one can find the circle of vainglory. It is a realm where pride and vanity take center stage in the form of a garden, seducing intruders with visions of their own magnificence. It is a labyrinth of winding paths adorned with vibrant blossoms, each petal full of beauty, yet shadowed by the sharpness of thorns. Within this enchanting realm, ethereal whispers echo the tales of past triumphs, both monumental and trivial, that linger in the air like a haunting melody. The most insidious of these memories are those of victories claimed and desires forsaken, drawing wanderers deeper into its seductive embrace. The ones who reach this circle tend to think and feel that they are already too mighty and able to resist all the temptations thrown at them. They revel in their own accomplishments, and in their own vainglory lies their ruin. Each step taken deeper into this garden with hubris leads intruders further astray, ensnaring them in a dense thicket where the relentless briars and gnarled roots await. Here, they become easy prey to the thorns and twisted branches that grip on the intruder. The air is then filled with the mocking chants of the garden's voices, who weave their failures in their ears, reminding all who enter that glory can be as fleeting as it is alluring.
I wandered into a garden of immense size, its paths winding like a maze, each step surrounded by blossoms that seemed to sing my praises. A heavy scent of triumph could be felt, a bittersweet aroma that reminded me of every victory, every achievement I had ever claimed. The whispers were intoxicating, recounting moments I had long forgotten or wished to remember differently. Each tale painting me as greater than I knew myself to be. I felt unstoppable, invincible, as though nothing in this realm could break me. But then the thorns came, silent at first, and then relentless. They wrapped around my legs, my arms and my chest, their grip tightening with every word of praise. The whispers then turned cruel, mocking me with my failures, each taunt cutting deeper than any blade. I realised then, too late for some, that this wasn't a garden. It was a snare,
A place where pride lured you in, only to strip you of everything you were.
The circle of indolency is the last circle of seduction in Slaanesh's realm. It is a place of stillness and complacency, where the seductive promise of rest and ease lulls intruders into a state of eternal stagnation. Here, the landscape is one of tranquil beauty, fields of soft, fragrant blooms, warm breezes that carry an overwhelming sense of comfort, and inviting pools that shimmer under a golden sky. Every step into this circle seems to sap away the burdens of the body and mind, offering an irresistible respite from all the hardships of life. In a peaceful and seemingly infinite beach, with soft sands and fresh air. Truly, a paradise of respite in the middle of the realm of chaos. Yet this illusion is the deadliest of traps. The more one succumbs to the promise of relaxation, the more they feel their strength and willpower drain away, replaced by an overwhelming lethargy. Those who linger in this place for too long find themselves rooted in place, their will to even move being completely lost, their bodies fading into the very landscape as they become grains of sand, to become a part of the very beaches that they rest upon, and their souls becoming part of the endless calm. To escape the circle of indolency demands more than just a true resolve. One must also be capable to reject the false peace it offers. For the cost of giving in is the loss of purpose and self.
I stepped into a paradise of quiet, where the air seemed to sigh with relief, and the ground beneath my feet cradled me like a soft embrace. It was perfect. The weight of my journey, the struggles I had faced, they all melted away, replaced by warmth that whispered I could stay here forever. In the middle of the realm of chaos, well, this was certainly unexpected. A welcome surprise, a well-deserved rest. A bed of flowers called to me, their scent promising sleep without dreams, a peace I'd never known. But as I reached out to touch them, I saw the truth. Faces frozen in bliss, yet lifeless, woven into the blooms themselves. Hands that had once reached for comfort, now wilted into the grass and the white sands. Oh, my legs felt heavy, my body unwilling to move. I realized then, this peace wasn't a gift, it was a grave. And the longer I stayed, the harder it became to leave. I had to fight, not against pain or struggle, but against the sweetness, most insidious trap of all. The temptation to just let go.
Could anyone survive the temptations and perils of the 6 circles of seduction to reach the heart of Slaanesh's domain? Each circle is a trial of the soul, where every attempt at advancing onwards strips away layers of resistance, leaving intruders vulnerable to the insidious allure of the Dark Prince. Few, if any, emerge unscathed from these traps of ambition, indulgence, and pride. Yet for those who somehow endure and press on through the seductive labyrinth, they are greeted not with relief, but with the ultimate challenge, the Palace of Slaanesh itself. In the center of the circles of seduction, one can find the Palace of Slaanesh, Unlike traditional strongholds, the excessive and luxurious palace serves as a haunting sanctuary for the Dark Prince's demonic followers, where the boundaries between pleasure and torment blur in nightmarish ways. The palace's exterior is adorned with elaborate carvings and statues that seem to be alive, their forms elegant and alluring, yet unsettling and unnatural. These figures whisper promises and secrets to any who approach, their voices threading into the minds of the unwary, luring them ever closer. The air around the palace hums with an otherworldly melody, like a siren's song that fills the soul with yearning and dread. Within its gilded halls, the opulence is overwhelming. Endless corridors stretch into infinity, their walls lined with the mirrors that reflect not the physical, but the innermost thoughts and desires of those who wander within. The floors are paved with precious gemstones that glow faintly underfoot, and the air is thick with a heavy mixture of perfumes of all types that intoxicate the senses. And yet, behind this veneer of beauty lies an undeniable menace. Each room, each chamber within this place is a trap, crafted to ensnare even the strongest of wills. These rooms are arenas of hedonism, not mere spaces for revelry. They are battlegrounds where mortals and demons alike engage in contests that push the limits of all types of excesses into realms of unimaginable torment. The depths of these depraved pursuits are so profound that only the most devoted followers of Slaanesh can find any joy amidst the anguish, reveling in a twisted ecstasy. As participants surrender to their desires, they often find themselves ensnared by the very vices they sought to conquer. Each hall echoes with the cries of both delight and despair of those condemned souls. Many are consumed by their desires, becoming part of the palace itself, while others may catch Slaanesh's eye and be granted a fleeting glimpse of the dark majesty at its heart, a sight that drives most, if not all, to madness or complete servitude. In this realm, where beauty and horror intertwine, one must ask, is the pursuit of pleasure worth the price of one's soul? Scholars and theogonists argue that at the heart of the palace sits the throne room, a place of unparalleled splendor where the very essence of Slaanesh resides. The Dark Prince watches all who enter, a being of perfect grace and beauty that defies mortal comprehension. To stand in the presence of Slaanesh is to feel both exalted and insignificant, as the god's gaze pierces through every thought and feeling, laying bare the soul.
I stood in the heart of the palace, the air alive with an iridescent shimmer that danced and shifted with every breath I took. Colours I could not name swirled around me, each one igniting a memory, a feeling, a longing I thought I had forgotten. And then I saw it. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, seated upon a throne that defied understanding. A creation not of stone or gold, but of pure essence, as though it had been woven perfectly by the creation itself. Slaanesh was everything. Every ideal I had ever aspired to, every love I had ever yearned for, every ambition I had ever clung to. I could not look away, no matter how hard I tried. My flaws, my scars, my fears, everything I had hidden even from myself, rose to the surface as if stripped bare by its gaze. Yet I did not feel shame. I felt relief, as though all the broken pieces of who I was were finally acknowledged. And then came the promise. I felt it, not in words, but in the very air around me. A promise to mend, to rebuild, to make me more than I had ever been. My knees buckled, and I fell, not from exhaustion, but from awe. Tears of joy blurred my vision, and my chest ached with an emotion so raw I could not name it. I didn't resist. I didn't want to. My lips trembled, and I spoke the only words that mattered. Make me whole. And as I said them, I felt the last fragment of who I was dissolving into the perfect, consuming light of Slaanesh.
The allure of the palace of Slaanesh is intoxicating. Yet those who enter risk losing themselves entirely, becoming forever trapped in a cycle of indulgence that transforms their earthly sins into eternal chains. Here, amid the grandeur and grotesquerie, the true nature of the Dark Prince's dominion reveals itself. A paradise that masks its horrors behind a veil of temptation, where every pleasure comes at a cost far greater than mere satisfaction.
Raise buildings and sing songs in my glory. In my name, pursue your art and enshrine all beauty. Let all people follow their every desire, sate their every hunger, and deny themselves no adventure. For it is in these things, and in others, that you will find the greatest pleasure. And it is through these things, and through each other, that you shall rise yourselves higher, and unto the steps of my throne. You will take pleasure in all that is, though your bodies will break, and your souls be forfeit. For I am Slaanesh, most jealous of gods, and most demanding of lovers. And my thirst for you shall never be sated.
For a normal human, the prospect of surviving even a single day in the realm of TZEENTC'S would be a daunting challenge, to say the least. The very nature of this chaotic domain is antithetical to the human experience, and the constant flux of reality would be overwhelming to most beings. The realm of TZEENTC'S assaults the senses with its ever-changing landscape and bizarre phenomena. The Crystal Labyrinth, located within the realm of the Sorcerer, or the realm of TZEENTC'S as it is often called, with its iridescent pathways and floating islands, are a mesmerizing sight to any who stare upon it. But the constant shifting of the environment would quickly disorient and unsettle a human visitor. The air, thick with arcane energy, crackles with power, and the echoes of laughter and scheming fill the atmosphere, creating a sense of unease and paranoia. The human mind, accustomed to the relative stability of the mortal realm, would struggle to process the constant changes and the defiance of natural laws. The fluid nature of time and space would be particularly disorienting, as one's sense of temporal and spatial awareness will be thrown into absolute chaos, with nothing to hold on to, no reference, no way of knowing where and when they are in terms of their own pure existence. This sensory overload would likely lead to confusion, disorientation, and even total panic, making it difficult for a human to navigate the realm and find a safe haven within it. The fabric of reality bends and twists in the realm of Tzeentch, reflecting the chaotic character of the Chaos God. Observers, priests, and interpreters have concluded that at the heart of this realm lies an iridescent expanse that some say rivals the vastness of KHORNE'S blood-soaked Citadel. This crystalline plateau shimmers with a kaleidoscope of colors, casting a brilliant light that starkly contrasts with the crimson wastelands of the Blood God. The labyrinth that can be found there is not merely a backdrop. It is alive, pulsing with the energy of countless arcane secrets and the whispers of ancient sorcery. Though not just anyone can find and then enter the crystal labyrinth and the impossible fortress that seems to float above it. Nobody can leave these halls of limitless possibilities without losing their sanity. Every step in this realm is heavy with dashed hopes, and broken pieces of personalities shimmer in the light everywhere. The realm of Tzeentch is a place of intrigue, manipulation, and betrayal, where ambition and cunning are the keys to survival. For a human, the constant threat of danger and the need to constantly adapt to new situations would be a significant psychological strain. The realization that reality itself is malleable and that the very ground beneath one's feet could shift at any moment would be a terrifying prospect, shattering the human sense of security and control. Moreover, the realm's inhabitants, including Tzeentch'S followers and demons, pose a significant threat to any human visitor. These beings are driven by their own agendas, and are often engaged in complex schemes and plots. Any mortal man lacking the supernatural abilities and resilience of these entities is already at a severe disadvantage in this place, constantly at risk of being manipulated, betrayed, or outright destroyed by the realm's denizens.
Let the games begin.
The landscape around me is a nightmare of constant change. Mountains rise and fall like the swell of an ocean. Forests appear and vanish in the blink of an eye, and rivers flow both forward and backwards. The very ground beneath my feet pulses and shifts as if it's alive and aware of my presence. I feel like I'm walking on the surface of a living, breathing entity. Everywhere I look, colors change, blending into one another in an endless dance. What once a clear sky turns into a swirling vortex of hues that make my head spin. Buildings rise from the earth, their architecture bending and twisting in ways that should be impossible. I have seen structures that defy gravity, floating in the air, and others that melt like wax, only to solidify again into new, grotesque forms. The creatures here are no less bizarre. I have glimpsed things that defy description. Beings with too many eyes or limbs, shifting and morphing as they move. They whisper in languages I cannot understand. Their voices echoing in my mind long after they've passed. Each step I take is accompanied by a sense of growing dread, as if the very air itself is pressing down on me, trying to crush my spirit. Then, in the distance, I see it. Fortress of impossible proportions. Its size and shape are in constant flux, shifting from towering spires to sprawling battlements in the blink of an eye. One moment it appears close, almost within reach. The next it seems miles away, an ever-receding goal. I have no choice but to move towards it, driven by the hope that it might offer some answers, some escape from this madness.
The impossible fortress, the sanctum of Tzeentch, lies at the heart of this ever-shifting reality. Its maddening spires, gates, and walls are in constant flux, shifting and reforming with each passing moment. Gravity shifts and disappears, while lights of every color imaginable spring from the twisting corridors. Its architecture is a blend of maddening complexity and surreal beauty, with impossible angles and structures that defy gravity.
So we can calibrate real space and witness the vast fractals of existence once more.
The labyrinths within the fortress and the realm of the sorcerer may lack demonic guardians, but they are no less perilous for those who dare to navigate them. These countless passageways test the very essence of one's willpower, as the walls of the glass maze do not merely reflect light, but also the deepest facets of the mind. Hope, despair, dreams, lunacy, and horror. The maze itself is a living entity, constantly shifting and reconfiguring its pathways. There is no predetermined route to follow. Instead, Tzeentch's subconscious mind orchestrates an ever-evolving maze of barriers and traps, making each journey a uniquely treacherous ordeal. For a simple human, the journey through the impossible fortress is a harrowing ordeal that assaults the mind, body, and soul.
Minions, go forth under the inevitable.
The psychological toll is immense, as the constantly changing environments erodes any sense of reality or stability. The walls themselves seem to whisper secrets and lies, filling the mind with doubt and paranoia. Dreams and nightmares bleed into waking moments, making it difficult to distinguish what is real and what is illusion. The fortress's reflective surfaces project the deepest fears and desires of the intruder, magnifying their internal struggles and driving many to the brink of madness. Physically, the force is equally merciless. The shifting pathways often lead to dead ends or trap rooms, filled with arcane hazards and traps designed to test one's endurance and resolve. The labyrinth's ever-changing nature requires constant adaptation and quick reflexes, exhausting the body through relentless trials. The air itself is thick with the energies of raw magic, which can be both invigorating and utterly draining, sapping strength or inflicting sudden bursts of pain. Spiritually, the fortress is a crucible for the soul. Each step taken within its walls feels like a descent into chaos, as the very essence of the place seeks to corrupt and taint the intruder's spirit. The presence of Tzeentch permeates every corner. This spiritual pressure can lead to feelings of hopelessness and despair, as the fortress relentlessly tests one's faith and willpower. Many who enter the impossible fortress are bound to never leave, as it is their destiny. And the ones who do exit, because Tzeentch allows them to, find their souls irreversibly marked by the experience, forever changed by the encounter with incomprehensible eldritch power. Even immortal demons struggle to withstand the twisted horror of the impossible fortress, for its very essence defies the laws of time and space. However, the Lords of Change can safely navigate its labyrinthine secrets, guiding the way to the hidden library where Tzeentch himself resides, forever scheming and plotting the next grand transformation. Within this enigmatic stronghold, Tzeentch remains untouched, regardless of his distractions with the great game. Legends and fragmented interpretations of forbidden tomes tell of the other Chaos God's countless minions lost in the attempt to penetrate the fortress throughout millennia. They've never been able to go beyond the first perplexing room of the fortress. It is said that invaders must traverse and survive 100 or more such chambers, each more confounding than the last, to even approach the hidden library and face Tzeentch himself. This impregnable defense has dissuaded even the mightiest of his rivals, as the cost in minions and resources to breach the impossible fortress is deemed too great. Thus, Tzeentch continues to weave his intricate plots in the safety of his unfathomable sanctuary. His power and influence ever growing amidst the chaos he so masterfully orchestrates. But how can a simple human tread through these halls, through these impossible corridors? Is the answer to embrace the knowledge? To embrace Tzeentch? For Tzeentch is the changer of ways, the great schemer, the architect of fate. He is the embodiment of the endless cycle of evolution that drives all life. The force that propels the universe towards an unknowable destiny. To embrace Tzeentch is to embrace the inevitability of change. To dance to the tune of the impossible fortress and its master, the architect of fate.
I don't know how long I've been here, but the time seems to stretch and contract with every step I take. Every turn, I am confronted by choices that offer the tantalizing promise of knowledge and wisdom. Strange tomes and cryptic symbols appear before me, whispering secrets that could help me navigate the next riddle. The temptations are overwhelming. And each time I resist, another one presents itself in another disguise. But each time I succumb, I feel a flicker of hope that I might finally find my way out. But it seems that with every answer, the fortress shifts around me, leading me deeper into its labyrinthine depths. Walls themselves seem to mock me, reflecting my confusion and desperation. They pulse with an unnatural light, showing glimpses of truths and lies intertwined. I can feel my sanity slipping as I try to discern what is real from what is mere illusion. The answers I seek always seem just out of reach, and each revelation only brings more questions, more riddles to solve. I've lost all sense of direction. What I thought was north now feels like south, and distances seem to expand and contract at random. I feel like I'm trapped in a maze, with walls that move when I'm not looking, leading me deeper into the madness. My desperation grows with each passing moment as I struggle to find something, anything, that remains constant. I can feel my soul being drawn deeper into the heart of the fortress. The air is thick with a sense of foreboding. The very ground seems to shift beneath my feet. My thoughts are no longer my own. They are twisted by the influence of a great changer of ways, the master of this accursed place. I am losing myself, becoming just another pawn in his endless game.
In forbidden manuscripts and legends lost to time, the Well of Eternity is referred to with reverence and dread. It is a mystical location that some would say is not only located in the center of Tzeentch'S realm, but nestled within the very heart of the warp itself, positioned at the center of all reality. This enigmatic place is where time and space both begin and end. A nexus of creation and dissolution. It is said by some scholars, and even mad remembrancers, that this place contains all the knowledge there is in existence. When the chaos god known as the Grand Sorcerer sought to uncover the secrets of the future, he journeyed to the Well of Eternity. There he stared at the infinite depth of the well, unable to fully contemplate what exactly lied in the profound blackness. He dispatched his most powerful and trusted lords of change into the well's swirling currents, yet none returned from its depths. Frustrated by this failure, Tzeentch made the bold decision to cast his own vizier, Kairos, into the Well of Eternity. Miraculously, the greater demon survived the ordeal and emerged with profound knowledge of future events. But he was drastically changed. His once mighty pinions were reduced to feeble remnants of their former grandeur. His immortal form now wizened with unnatural age. He had now become hunched and frail. The most extraordinary transformation was the splitting of his head and neck into two distinct heads, each bearing the burden of both foresight and the madness it induced. Kairos Fateweaver now sits at the right hand of Tzeentch as his oracle, incessantly muttering incoherent ramblings about events that have yet to come. 9 times 9 Lords of Change are entrusted with the crucial task of transcribing every tirade and fragment of cryptic knowledge uttered by the Oracle.
The past, present, and future, all will be ours to see.
Enduring an eternity within the well granted the greater demon profound and unparalleled sight, revealing truths that elude even Tzeentch. His right head peers into the endless array of all possible futures, while his left head gazes into the vast history of the past. Yet these remarkable visions were not without a grave cost. Though he can see all that has happened and all that is yet to be, Kairos is rendered tragically blind to the here and now, unable to perceive the present moment as it occurs. With all that being said, Kairos Fateweaver is the mightiest of the Lords of Change, and is blessed with all the knowledge concerning the nature of fate and destiny. What sort of knowledge or mystery does the Whale of Eternity store within its black depths? None can say, and it's perhaps safe to say that not us, the mortals that walk the earth, have the slimmest of hopes of ever finding out. For apparently, not even the mighty beings that we call divine and godlike have the answer for this impossible mystery.
I felt a surge of confidence as I moved through the vast halls of the impossible fortress. I knew now where I was going and how to navigate the corridors and the passageways to get to my destination. I had the knowledge now that I drank from the chalice that I found, but alas, I am no fool. I drank just enough to get what I needed because I knew that getting too much would do me just a sip or two, and that's all I took. Suddenly I had the knowledge that I needed, but without condemning myself. Each step seemed to fall with a purpose, and the once foreign architecture now appeared familiar to me. It was as if I had acquired an understanding of this realm's bizarre ways, and I navigated its endless corridors with a new-found ease. I could almost hear a voice in my mind guiding me with whispers of knowledge, urging me forward. But as I journeyed deeper, the corridors twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible, in ways that I hadn't been able to predict, leading me into vast chambers and spiraling staircases that defied all logic. The cracks began to appear, first in the walls around me, and then in the fortitude of my own mind. Nightmares slipped through these fissures, twisting my reality into visions of madness. I saw twisted reflections of myself screaming silently as they were consumed by darkness. Shadows danced on the edges of my vision, whispering sinister truths that I desperately tried to ignore. I staggered forward, my steps now heavy with the weight of despair. The corridors echoed with taunting laughter. Laughter of my own failures and fears. As I reached for some semblance of hope, it slipped through my fingers like sand, leaving only the cold embrace of hopelessness behind. It dawned on me that the fortress had ensnared me more completely than I had realized. The confidence I felt was a cruel trick, a delusion fed to me by the fortress itself. I realized with growing horror that I was trapped. Each step I took seemed to carry me further into the heart of the fortress, deeper into its labyrinthine grip. The knowledge I thought I had gained was nothing more than a facade. My mind screamed for escape, but my body moved forward, driven by a compulsion that I couldn't resist. The walls closed around me, pressing in with the weight of impending doom. I would join the billions of condemned souls that are forever trapped here. The fortress had become my eternal prison. In the end, I understood that the true horror of the impossible fortress was not its ever-changing nature, but the realization that it had stripped away all that I was in my foolish efforts to navigate it, leaving me with nothing but the echoes of my own hopelessness.